Colleagues, welcome to the 170th AGM, which falls between the forming of a new Scottish Government and EU referendum. I will make some remarks on the former, and I'll be a bit braver than John in that I predict that by the end of June we'll still be in Europe, or at least the geography teachers assure me of that fact. I'm also happy to return to Dundee, where I attended my first AGM in 2002, having become active in the Aberdeenshire Executive around the 2001 agreement. That agreement heralded a significant increase in educational spending, including a 23% restorative pay rise over 3 years, a significant increase in teachers in order to reduce maximum class contact time to 22.5 hours, and additional support staff, including classroom assistants, to free up time for teaching and learning. Oh, happy days. In 2010, our then General Secretary Ronnie Smith warned that a decade of education was about to be replaced by a decade of cuts. Of course, Scottish teachers and pupils were not to blame for the financial crisis of 2008, but the political response to that crisis of austerity has meant that we have paid the price. Our Equality Committee's Face Up to Child Poverty publication contained advice to members on poverty-proofing the school day and was very well received in schools. However, it is shameful that in this day and age that such advice is needed. The impact of austerity-driven cuts, which have deepened the levels of child poverty, have created even greater barriers to educational achievement for too many of our young people. Teachers have also paid the price in terms of real-term pay cuts and significant detriment to our pensions, paying more, working longer and getting less. To rub salt in the wound, despite a 1% pay increase from April, many members would have seen their net pay in April reduced by a combination of national insurance changes, of increased pension contributions to achieve the overall 9.6 contribution rate, and for some promoted members, the ending of a period of cash conservation. It is perhaps worth recalling the promises made by the Tories in the 2010 election. Austerity would clear the deficit, it would create conditions for growth, and that we were all in this together. However, here we are in 2016, with welfare cuts meaning the poorest in society have paid the price, increasing levels of child poverty, and increasing reliance on food banks. We have had the pain, but for what gain? The deficit stands at 76 billion. National debt has increased by over 50% since the 2010 election, and economic growth stands at a meagre 0.4%. Indeed, recently a strong warning that austerity policies can do more harm than good has been delivered by economists from the International Monetary Fund. Belated agreement with the STUC, there is a better way campaign. And one better way is to have a fair tax system at both national and international level. The most surprising thing about the Panama Papers was that anyone was surprised. Professor Gabriel Zucman, in The Hidden Wealth of Nations, conservatively calculates that at least $7.6 trillion, or around 8% of the world's financial wealth, was missing. The Global Alliance for Tax Justice, which is supported by Education International, campaigns for an end to secrecy and more public accountability, international tax rules that are fair for all countries, progressive, transparent and sufficiently resourced tax, and public investment in services and sustainable development. Non-compliance with such basic principles by wealthy individuals and corporations have a direct impact on public services and on public education systems. It is also worth recalling the behaviours of the financial and banking sector leading to the 2008 crash can be firmly laid at the neoliberal policies introduced by Reagan and Thatcher in the 1980s and their blind faith in deregulated markets. And we are seeing attempts to apply the same failed philosophy in education. Last summer, as John referred to, the General Secretary and I attended the World Conference of Education International, the things we do for the EIS. A federation, as John has mentioned, and a key concern at that conference was the growing trend to privatise education and the highly negative impact this has for society, for students and for teachers. The trend, which has been labelled the Global Education Reform Movement, or GERM, by Pasi Salzberg, emphasises a market in schools, corporate governance type approaches, accountability, testing and privatisation. The evidence is clear that where this germ affects education system, it creates, exacerbates and entrenches inequalities. I also recently attended the NUT conference, which discussed their campaign against the UK government's white paper that seeks to continue the trend in England to academisation of schools, abolition of national pay scales, and allows such academies to employ anyone they see fit as teachers. This goes hand in hand with a high-stakes SATS testing regime which serves to deepen the attainment gap rather than to close it. Given such trends, we should celebrate the shared commitment of Scottish society that education is a societal good and is and should remain a public service under democratic control. That common ground allows for a shared commitment to closing the attainment gap and addressing other national priorities by working in partnership. Of course, inequalities and poverty is a wider society problem that can't be solved by schools alone. But as a profession, we know that schools can and do make a difference. We welcome the priority placed on education during and post-election and welcome John Swinney to his new post. And we look forward to engaging in the Summit of Education recently announced by the Scottish Government. A key message to political parties and representatives is to work with the profession to build on strengths. We can deliver improvements by the profession working in partnership with employers, the Scottish Government and other education bodies. There are no quick fixes, however, and a top-down improvement agenda will fail to engage the commitment, the energy and the dedication of the profession and will not work. Improvement will only be achieved by a sustained and shared long-term commitment with the active participation and leadership of the profession. Of course, the best way to close the attainment gap is to stop it opening up in the first place. In his recent speech to Parliament, John Swinney highlighted the crucial importance of early years and childcare and committed to, I quote, an insistence of educational input to close the attainment gap before it begins to have a profound impact. We commissioned research by the Child's Curriculum Group that once again confirms the value of teachers as part of the preschool setting workforce. Despite the evidence, over the last 10 years, we have seen a 29% reduction in the number of teachers employed in such services. The current access to a teacher does not, in many areas, provide sufficient educational input, including meaningful interaction with a teacher. The newly elected Scottish Government has committed to invest in £750 million in the Attainment Fund. This is of course welcome, but does not tell the full story. Local government benchmarking reports that the total education spend by local authorities over the last 5 years has, in real terms, been cut by £300 million. This is despite an increase in over 20,000 primary pupils and 10,000 early years places. For this financial year, COSLA reports a £350 million cut in cash terms in the allocation to local government. While politicians may quibble about the figures, the central point is clear. The additional attainment fund is topping up a bucket which is heavily leaking due to cuts by local authorities. The question of governance has been raised during the election. The national collection of school-level data, the highlighting of school clusters and educational regions in the SNP manifesto, an indication that some of the attainment fund will be passed directly to schools, suggests a changing landscape in the governance and accountability between national and local government and schools. The EIS supports local democratic control, but that is not unconditional. It was regrettable that COSLA was unwilling to sign up to the protection of teacher numbers through the tripartite SNCT machinery. The budget-driven proposal to reduce the primary school week to 22.5 hours was initially defeated by Renfrewshire EIS and parents, but began to reappear as budget proposals elsewhere, notably in Western Bartonshire, where it was again defeated. Following pressure by the EIS, the Education Act is now legislated for the equivalent of 25 hours teaching time. That is a significant win for the EIS and for primary pupils and parents. Colleagues, we have also regularly passed AGM motions to ring-fence funds to avoid budget cuts impacting education. We are clear that the decision to protect education spend or to make education budget cuts can be made at national or local level. However, these examples illustrate the need for a clear national framework to avoid budget-driven postcode lottery at local authority and school level. We strongly support collegiate decision-making at school level and recognise that the 32 LNCTs provide valuable forums for local negotiation and professional dialogue in education matters. Closing the attainment gap and other improvements will occur at school level, and in any discussion or review of governance, it is a reasonable starting point to ask all players in the educational landscape how well they support schools to achieve such improvements. The most common problem raised with me in visits to schools and local associations was teacher shortages that significantly impact on the workload of all teachers and can mean our promoted members covering classes in their management time. Ensuring there's a teacher in front of the class rather overtakes the school improvements plan. And one of the difficulties faced in workforce planning is that planning is at a national level while staffing decisions are taken at local level. An example is the Attainment Fund. We are not suggesting all the Attainment Fund will be or should be spent on additional teachers, but for every £10 million spent on teachers, an extra 250 teachers will have to have been planned for and trained. The EIS has been successful in gaining a national commitment to maintain teacher numbers. We continue to advocate for a national minimum staffing standard that provides a better mechanism to meet that commitment and to underpin workforce planning. The OECD report, Improving Schools in Scotland, provides an independent review of the progress of the BGE phase of CFE. It paints a largely positive picture of Scottish education. It confirms our schools are highly inclusive places that measure well in terms of social inclusion and social mix. It recognises that Scotland's teachers are engaged and professional. It notes the positive upward trends in overall attainment and the levels of attainment compared well internationally and within the UK, and there is also an upward trend in the number of pupils moving to positive destinations. And it also highlights the well-established challenges facing Scottish education. One policy response to the report was the National Improvement Framework, including national standardised assessments. We strongly challenged early versions of this framework, and the final version is an improvement and now recognises the key role of teacher professional judgment in the assessment of pupils. However, concerns remain about the direction that the NIF may take, and many teachers and parents remain sceptical over proposals in relation to national standardised assessments. Are they to be a tool available to teachers for diagnostic assessment, or are they part of the accountability agenda? It remains for the new Cabinet Secretary, John Swinney, to offer reassurance in the Scottish Government's plans and a firm commitment that there will be no return to high-stakes national testing or a league table type approach to measuring pupil progress. The OECD report did not cover the senior phase of CFE, where the introduction of new qualifications and the burden of assessments have placed considerable strain on teachers and on pupils, a pressure that has been recognised both by the Scottish Government and local authorities. The impact on pupils should not be underestimated. On the 16th of March, the Herald reported on health behaviours in school-aged children, research that found that Scottish teenagers are among the most stressed in Europe when it comes to school work pressures. Further, there was a significant increase since the previous study in 2006. Dr. Fergus Neville of the School of Medicine at St Andrews University said, "I think it is a concern. When you see Scotland so high in the league table, it is a dramatic change in a relatively short period of time. It could be exam pressure is driving this. We agree, indeed it could." Our requests for a delay to allow time for schools to prepare were ignored. The new national qualifications were introduced in 2013-14, and the first reflections report was published in August 2014. Our members have been extremely patient, but that patience is exhausted. It is our view that the SQA in particular has shown little urgency to take reasonable action to address our concerns. The removal of unnecessary duplication in assessment was originally promised in August 2014, and we are now told it won't be delivered until 2017 or 2018. Mr Swinney has received a letter from Dr Janet Brown of the SQA claiming that everything possible has been done by the SQA to reduce workload without damaging the integrity of the national qualifications. We do not agree with the SQA, and we have previously submitted concrete proposals for change that could and should have been acted upon immediately. Our statutory ballot on industrial action is underway and closes on the 16th of June. The work to contract would initially amount to a withdrawal of cooperation with the SQA, but will not impact on pupils. I would urge delegates on the return to school to make one final push for a yes vote in this ballot. For a UK government that preaches about reducing bureaucracy, red tape and regulation to free up business, it is unsurprising hypocrisy that they seek to reduce the effectiveness of trade unions by increasing regulation in the Trade Union Bill. Although the campaign against the bill has had some success, it has now received royal assent and so presents a challenge to us. The Trade Union Bill seeks to place further obstacle in the way of both representing members and of promoting a quality and an equitable education system. Colleagues, these must and will be overcome. Indeed, during the course of this year, we have demonstrated that we can organise and build effective action. I refer to the highly successful action by EIS FILA, which, as remarked by a number of delegates at the STUC conference, was not only a victory for our college members, not only a victory for the EIS, but a victory for the wider trade union movement. In a sector disproportionately hit by cuts, the members and leadership of FILA won a stunning victory in the first negotiation following our return to national bargaining. After 11 months of little or no progress, the first of a planned 32 days of strike action led to urgent talks and a highly satisfactory outcome for our college members. A further success has been the 13-week campaign by Western Bartonshire Local Association, including 6 strike days. This action was against proposed cuts in education spend, largely through reduction in promoted posts and facultisation. The successful outcome, with a new curricular model based on subject PTs, has been a hard-won victory, with members showing a high level of determination. Colleagues, this AGM pays tribute to the determination of our members in undertaking, persevering and winning both disputes. Colleagues, the key lesson of these 2 very successful actions is the importance of active and organised school branches, supported by strong associations and the national body working together. An example of that is our workload campaign. At national level, we have secured agreements in terms of the publication of Tackling Bureaucracy report. A workload agreement at SNCT has been reached, and we are currently balloting on SQA workload demands. The SNCT agreement now requires workload agreements at LNCT level and school branches to ensure that every school improvement plan should set out agreed actions to reduce bureaucracy and workload. LNCTs are charged with monitoring the impact of such changes at school, and workload will only be reduced by such concerted action at national, local and school level. At national level, there has been considerable work done in revamping our EIS reps training. We have increased the number of organisers in order to provide more support to local associations. In my visits to local associations and schools, I have been struck by the quality of teaching and learning and wider community activities of our schools. The headlines that regularly report a crisis in Scottish education is totally at odds with my experience in such schools visits. Yes, we can and should improve, but let us celebrate the success of our schools. I would like to thank local associations and schools I visited for their hospitality and welcome. I would also like to thank our school reps, health and safety reps, equality reps and learning reps for the work they do for the Institute and for Scottish education. The key leadership role that is played by our 32 local association committees and our 2 self-governing associations is of enormous importance to our members and to an effective national body. In all the positions I have held in EIS, from school rep down to president, the support from colleagues, officers, officials, and I say that deliberately, from school rep to president, the support from colleagues, officers, official and staff has been second to none, and I thank them for that support. I would also like to thank Aberdeenshire Council for their support in allowing me time off to fulfil my duties, and my own Aberdeenshire colleagues for their support. Colleagues, it's been a highlight of my professional life to have served Scottish teachers as President of EIS. We are clear that as a trade union, we have two mutually dependent goals: to defend the interests of our profession and to promote education quality and equality for the benefit of our pupils. Scottish education is worth fighting for. Since 1847, the EIS has represented the profession and has been, is and will continue to be at the heart of that fight. Thank you, colleagues.